I have a discussion for you guys with special guest Ryan. He's talking about Bernardin's seamless garment. Unfortunately, due to my error, I did not record the first part of his discussion, but the second part was really solid, and so I just wanted to post this, and hopefully you find it informative just like I did.
Most Catholics are correct when it comes to theology. Okay, they're reciting the creed. Most have not embraced this Balthasar/Baron heresy that everybody goes to heaven and there's no hell. Half of the Catholics have life correctly. Okay. I don't know, maybe it's only like 25% that understand the social issues. I think, unfortunately, even some good people like Taylor Marshall and Timothy Gordon, they've been quite skeptical of the idea that we ought to, that recycling is important. They've kind of criticized that. It's not as important as reciting the creed, okay, or not performing an abortion, all right,
Yeah.
or voting for a pro-abortion candidate, but you do, it's in the scriptures, in the book of Genesis, you have, and in the catechism too, you have an obligation to take care of the earth, which means, don't pollute. And if you have the ability to recycle and it's easy, then go ahead and do it. And something that Pope Francis talked about, which he kind of got lampooned about, was don't use the air conditioning as much. Well, it seems legitimate to me. I mean, if you go to a monastery, let's say you go to a monastery and all the monks are in some kind of like climate-controlled little cubicles or cells. That's not a real monastic life. I mean, in the sense that if you're from Florida or whatever, okay, obviously you need air conditioning. And I'm not saying on a 95-degree day with high humidity, but we as Catholics have an obligation to embrace some sort of penance, okay? And the best penances are the ones that God gives to us himself directly. And that would be the weather, okay, and whatever illnesses we might have, or, accidents that happen to us. So, be that as it may, that's all kind of an aside. Back to the original remark about the seamless garment. Yes, it is, in some sense, Cardinal Bernardin is right, and but we need to discern what it is that he's right about. Something I thought about yesterday is that I was thinking about what the devil said in the Garden of Eden. The devil never comes out and says, like, total lie. He comes out and says, truth, 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 little bit of lie, all right? And I thought about this from the context of Vatican II. Vatican II is very diabolical in this sense. Vatican II comes out and says, truth, 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 truth. Little ambiguity. I'm not saying it's absolutely blatantly a lie, but it's this squishy thing, which this thing, when you see remarks and documents that have these squishy ambiguities in there, be very careful. I'd say, I'm convinced that anywhere you see that, if it's coming from the church, then it's compromise. It has the touch of Satan in it, okay? And this brings us up to this point that I was talking out there. I don't know if you wanted to discuss this today, or get to it, was about this idea of the two churches that Father Wynandy has mentioned in his essay. And for those who didn't read the thing, Father Wynandy says we've gotten to the point where we've got two churches now. And the Pope's head of both. One is the Catholic Church, and the other one is this schismatic sect. Okay? Now, who has said this before? Because I've heard of these two churches a lot. Well, one source comes from Father Amorth. It was either him or Cardinal Choppy who was friends with St. Padre Pio. And St. Padre Pio told him, he said, whoever he was talking to, you have to understand now that Satan has been introduced into the church, and very soon he will rule over a false church. And Father Almorth was like, what do you mean? You're talking about like an anti-pope, antichrist? And that's kind of where everything goes vague and hazy, and you don't get the rest of the story. But I've heard it from him. I also heard it from Father Hesse. Father Hesse talked often about Pope Paul VI. Pope Paul VI being head of a schismatic church known as the Church of Vatican II, or the conciliar church, or the church of the new advent. Okay, that's something that they like to say. And so that comes from Father Hesse. Well, where did he learn it from? Well, it comes from Archbishop Lefebre, who talked about these two churches. Now, the thing that's interesting is before it was just SSPX people that were talking about these two churches, one real, one fake. But now we have mainstream, not even traditionalist, Father Weinandy, not traditionalist, just mainstream. And Father Weinandy's talking about two churches, okay? So, you put these, this is the idea here, where you have the devil's game plan, you can see it in the Amazon Synod, is you take truth, 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 error. Truth, 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 a little bit of falsehood. And so you see that, you saw that game plan in the Vatican II. You're seeing this game plan, except it's more explicit in the Amazon Synod. You have lie, 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 a little bit of truth. It's like somewhere they might mention Christ and the Christian ecology, but for the most part, it's just ecological, liberal, claptrap, buzzwords, ad-libs that they're playing with these sentences or whatever. And so there is a connection between that. When the devil gets into something, because he's now, in my opinion, gotten into the church after Vatican II, he was there before, just kind of underground. When the devil is in there, he's working, and he works very slyly, slowly. He doesn't want to go too fast to scare people. And so it's just a little bit of error at first, till it compounds now, where we've got what seems like the Pope is attending these pagan worship services, these idolatrous services, and you've got these idols set up in these churches in Rome. Okay, now we've slowly, where the frog has slowly been boiled, and now all the cardinals are sitting there while there's pagan, Indian priests who are giving them whatever. Fake false blessings or curses, and they're smoking peace pipes, and they're bowing down to these idols. And if you go back to the root of this, okay, it's just a little compromise. So, that's the bottom line. This is the real seamless garment, okay? The real seamless garment is the entirety of the Catholic faith with no admixture of error. Because if you admit any error, then it's no longer the Catholic faith. It's a schismatic sect or a heretical sect or whatever. So in that sense, you have to keep the Catholic faith whole and entire, all aspects of it, as revealed by the Catholic Church. And that is the seamless garment.